Hey guys, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my channel, and today's video is going to be a little bit more serious. I'm going to be talking about my mental health in general, my experience with it, some tips I have, and the importance of having good mental health. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with a disclaimer just because I know there's going to be some people who are going to think things. So first thing I want to say is that I'm not looking for attention in any way at all. It has taken me a very long time to be able to talk about this, and it's not something I want people to think I'm using as a way to get attention, or I don't want you to think I'm being like insensitive in some ways, because like I just don't want people thinking that like I'm not serious, because I really am. And like mental health is not a joke whatsoever, so if anybody thinks it is, then do not watch this video. But I'm doing this more for people to see that I go through it too, and if anybody ever needs help, I'm here because I can understand what you're going through, and I feel like I'm ready to get everything off my chest, so let's see how this goes. So I'm gonna start off with a little bit about me and my experience, my story, I guess you could call it. I've always had a little bit of anxiety. I remember when I was little, I used to be really scared to be away from my parents, and I know that a lot of kids are, but mine was like extremely extreme. I would like have a lot of fits and temper tantrums being away from them, and I was terrified to go to school. I remember I used to cry and scream, like even up until like grade 3 or 4, because I was scared to go to school. I had really bad anxiety being away from my parents, and I am an only child, so that probably has a lot to do with it, but I was always really, really terrified to go to school. And then about like 6th grade, I was bullied a lot, mainly because of my like appearance. I had a lot of acne. I was like one of the first kids in my class to like reach puberty, so I had a lot of acne, and I got bullied for that. And I also got bullied because like, if you personally know me, you know I'm really weird, and like I'm really energetic, so a lot of people just like didn't know how to take that. So I guess like I was bullied for being like the weird kid, but like as I got older I realized it's not really a bad thing, and just a lot of energy coming from me. And then middle school came, and like grade 7 wasn't too bad. I was like obviously picked on a little bit. I think like it was just like for a joke, but I'm really sensitive, so you know. And I got into a really bad relationship with somebody in that portion of my life, and it caused me a lot of anxiety, and it was just really bad. So ever since then I've had a lot of like trust issues and just anxiety like being away from people, and anxiety being around people. It's really confusing, but that portion of my life was just not the best for me. Obviously we all have like regrets and we make mistakes, but now that I think of it, I don't think I would go back and change anything, because it was a life lesson for me. But it was really hard, and I hope nobody has to go through that stuff. So yeah, and I remember in 8th grade, I remember my teacher told me I missed like 70 days of school, and I used to get a lot of those letters home that say like, oh, like your child has missed way too many days of school. And I don't blame my parents at all. My parents knew that I was going through stuff, and my parents knew that I had really bad anxiety and I couldn't go to school. And if I'm being completely honest, they couldn't get me to go. Like I could not go. No matter how hard they tried, I could not go. So I don't blame them at all for that. But after all of that situation happened, I remember one night I really was too scared to be alone. So my dad drove me to my family doctor, who is an hour away because I used to live where my doctor was. But she told me that I obviously had anxiety, because like a lot of people do have anxiety, and it's not something to be brushed off. It's really important, because a lot of people don't understand the difference between like being anxious and having anxiety, because it's like anxiousness but 10 times worse. But anyways, I'm getting off topic, but my dad drove me and she told me I had anxiety, obviously, and also told me that I had depression, which was a big thing for my parents to take in because I was always that happy, energetic kid, and I honestly felt the worst for them because I'm their only kid, and like they felt like they weren't doing what they should be doing, but it's not their fault. Again, it was just me. But my doctor didn't want me going on pills, so she thought it could make me a lot worse since I was so young at the time. So she gave me these like supplements and whatever to help me out, and it worked, but I just didn't see the point of taking them. It wasn't that serious in my mind. But yeah, but then high school started. Honestly, was like a breath of fresh air. It was like a fresh start for me, and I am so thankful for it because everything from my past kind of just went away. I met new people and started over, and it really helped me. And a lot of people say that high school is like the worst 4 years of their life, but like I think it's one of my best so far anyways. But I did have a counselor in grade 8. I'm going back a bit because I missed some stuff, and he was so helpful to me. And I didn't want to talk to him at first, obviously, because I didn't know him, and I thought it was strange for me to talk to someone I don't know about my problems. But surprisingly enough, he did help me, and it wasn't even like I'm stubborn, so I don't like listening to people's advice, but he was just someone I could talk to about my problems, and it honestly helped me a lot, like especially since he can't really judge me because he doesn't know me. But I did that. High school was a good start for me, and then like now I'm anxious a lot, especially when it comes to like my friends. Like I love my friends to death. This is not their fault at all. If you're watching this, not your fault. But I get like really anxious when like people don't text me back, if people don't want to like if people don't ask me to hang out, or if people take a while to like answer or don't text me first. I feel like they don't want to talk to me, and I think that is just my overthinking, but like it really does stress me out sometimes. Like I'll literally like break down because I feel like nobody likes me, which is, I know people do like me. It's just like my anxiety like makes me think that like, oh, maybe like they're not texting me back because they're mad at me, or maybe they don't want to hang out with me because they don't like me. But like they're busy, I know it. And the thing about anxiety is that you know that you're overthinking, but you're still thinking that. So like, as an example, I know that like my friends don't hate me, but I still think in that moment like, oh, like did I do something wrong? But I know I didn't. If that makes any sense. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. I do get anxious when it comes to like assignments and tests, but everybody gets that. Like I feel really stressed out and I can't understand some questions on a test. I'll freak out, get really anxious and paranoid. Same with assignments. Like something could be due like 2 weeks from that time, and I'll be freaking out about it and stressed out about it. But that's like everything now. I'm doing a lot better, in all honesty. I think my biggest thing about my anxiety is just like people. I have like a lot of trust issues. People coming into my life is not hard for me. I'm so easy to talk to. I'm so understanding, and I'm not judgmental because I've been through a lot of things as well. But the problem with me is people leaving my life is really hard. So like if I lose a friend, or like a breakup, or someone passing away, is really hard for me because I let all that in and now it's just gone. And that's one of my anxiety things, is like people. School still gives me anxiety sometimes. Sometimes I do wake up and I'm like, I really don't want to go to school today. Overwhelmed being around people sometimes, and like I don't know, I'm just an anxious person, I guess. Like, there's a lot of things that make me anxious, and I think that I have a lot to work on still, but I am doing way better. There's so much more I could say about it, but I'm not gonna keep going on and on. But there are things that have helped me over the couple years, what feels like millions of years that I've had this, and maybe people who are watching this will understand me a little more. I don't intentionally panic. I don't intentionally freak out. That's just how it is sometimes. You know, you get a little bit of a panic attack. You feel like things aren't going the right way for you. I just have a lot on my plate sometimes and I can't handle it, so I start to panic. And, you know, I feel bad sometimes for the people around me because they kind of have to see it happen and be put in situations they shouldn't be put in. And I feel like, obviously I feel really bad, but I think my friends, my boyfriend, and my family have really started to understand me a little more now that I've opened up to them and talked to them. I think they understand that, like, this is something I can't control and this is something serious to me. And I know a lot of people don't think that, like, anxiety and depression are serious and that it's all in your head, but it's not. It's a big issue. So if you are one of those people, maybe you just need to be a little more understanding. And I hope you kind of understand my story now. And anyways, that's basically it. Maybe one day I'll go more into detail with it, but let's move on to my tips, because I've got some tips that I use that might help some people. And by the way, if they don't help you, I'm not a doctor. I don't really know how to cure everything, but these are what helped me. And yeah, let's see. Okay, so the first thing that really helped me obviously was the counselor. I'm not telling you to go get a counselor, because if you're like me and you're really stubborn, I didn't want to either at first. It took my parents a really long time to convince me. But in the long run, it really helped me having that person that didn't know me to talk to, who can't judge me and can only give me advice based on what they know. It's different from getting advice from a friend, because if you get advice from a friend, they already know you really well and they could just tell you what you want to hear. But, you know, counselors are there to help you. That's their job. And mine, honestly, I wish I could see him again and just thank him, because he did so much for me. And yeah, like, if there's counselors at your school, definitely talk to them, because they could also help, like, your anxiety or issues, like, with school become a lot better, because you have someone there that you can trust and rely on. And again, I'm not saying that you should go talk to a counselor, because a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but if you are open to it, I would really suggest doing so. The next thing is to talk openly about it with your friends and your family. And this took me, like, up until, like, last year to talk about everything that happened with me in middle school, to talk to my family about, because I don't think they understood why I was always scared to, like, go places. And I panic a lot, I freak out a lot, you know, and I feel like now they're a lot more understanding. And some people's families will not understand it, but it's better to try than to keep them wondering. Also, talking about it with your friends. I've had to talk to my friends multiple times about it, and I've said, like, hey, if I'm ever, like, annoying you or, like, really, like, coming at you, it's not because I'm, like, crazy. It's because I need reassurance. So if I'm, like, texting you 500 times, it's not because I'm trying to be annoying. It's because I need to make sure everything's okay, you know? So I feel like talking with your friends and family could really, really benefit you in a way, because they'll be a lot more understanding, and instead of getting annoyed or angry with you, they will be more calm and maybe approach the situation differently. So there are some things that, like, I do that people get annoyed with, obviously. So when I ask for advice, I have to accept it. I cannot be offended by it unless it's extremely rude, which has never happened to me. So if my friends are giving me advice, sometimes like I kind of just have to take it. And I have a problem with like people saying stuff to me, and I'm really, really sensitive, so like I get really like, ooh, like, whoa, that was rude, but it's not intentionally rude. So sometimes the advice that you're given is true, but sometimes you don't want to take it. So if it's true and you know it's true, sometimes you just gotta hold on to it, maybe try it and see how that goes. So this is the biggest thing, taking time for yourself when you realize that you need it. So now I take 1 day a week and I just pamper myself. And that sounds crazy, but like I literally have a bath, I read a book, I'll watch some videos, I'll watch my favorite TV show, I'll eat some snacks, and it's just a way to just relax and give yourself some time to take a break from school, to take a break from your social life. And it's honestly amazing. Like if you realize that like you're really upset or something's bothering you, take time for yourself. Don't worry about other people. Be a little selfish, because honestly the only person that's gonna help you in that moment is yourself. So just take it. And my next part of my advice is a little bit harsh maybe to some people, but you kind of have to learn that like no one's really reliable except yourself. Like yes, your family and your friends obviously care for you and are going to be there for you, but there's some times when they can't be, or sometimes they won't be. So sometimes you just have to think like, I'm like only there for myself. And that helps me in a way where like if people can't get a hold of me, or I can't get a hold of people when I'm like upset and like panicking, then I just kind of have to take it under my own hands and just deal with it myself, and know that you just kind of have to watch yourself and have your own back, because not everybody's gonna have yours. I always was really scared to like especially have a YouTube channel. This is just my example. So I got over a fear of being like embarrassed of having one. And people used to bully me for it too all the time. So, but here I am making videos anyways, because my next tip is to do things you love and don't let anyone stop you. Because I've learned that people are always going to be judgmental and rude and hating on everything you do. So just do what makes you happy and don't let what other people think affect you, because that's definitely one thing that I used to do a lot. And now that I have grown up a little bit, I've noticed that like, what are they gonna do? Nothing. So just keep doing you. Next thing is to just breathe. And I know that sounds really corny, but taking some time to just like pause, like just take a second and just, because honestly, if you're freaking out and there's like about school, if you're in school and something's happening, or if you're at home and you just need a second, just take a minute and just breathe and know that like everything eventually is going to be okay. And I know when I was going through really hard times, everyone would always say to me, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. But in that moment, like, you don't want to hear that, because in that moment you don't think everything's going to be okay. Eventually it will be, but you don't want to think that. So breathing in that moment just relieves a lot of stress. My next tip is to do what works best for you. So for me, listening to music really helps me, kind of lets out a lot of anger and sadness, I guess. Writing also helps me, like if I write down things that are bothering me, writing down things that make me happy, writing down things that are making me stress, or just writing in general, anything that comes in my head, it really helps me. I think it's really a good way to express my feelings. Going out and distracting yourself is a huge thing. If you're caught up in things, if being alone, especially if being alone, oh my goodness, okay, listen. If being alone is what makes you overthink because you're sitting in your bed and you just keep thinking and thinking and thinking, go out and distract yourself. Call up a friend, say, hey, we're going out, we need to do something, I can't stop, like I need to stop thinking about stuff for a minute. Literally go out and do whatever. Even if it's not with somebody, go on a walk, go somewhere, do something that's going to distract you, because that is one thing that I have to do multiple times a week just so I can calm down. And one thing that also is important is just letting it out. If you're holding everything in and continuously dwelling over things, just let it out. like, there's nothing wrong with sitting in your bed and crying for hours and hours until you feel better, because sometimes you can't hold it in anymore, and I totally get that. There's times where I do it, and it's not being a crybaby, it's not being a little whatever, like, honestly, like, crying doesn't show weakness. It honestly means that, like, you've been just holding on to it for so long. Also, if you are stressed or upset about something or cannot make your mind up, because that's a huge thing about anxiety too, is you can never make up your mind because you don't know what's best and you don't know what's worse. So what I think is weigh out the pros and the cons and what's the worst and the best. So what's the worst thing that could happen and what's the best thing that could happen, and just see which one works better and go with it. This thing is hard for people to grasp, I think. Time. So time doesn't heal everything, obviously. There's stuff that I've been through that I still haven't let go of. There's things that I will never forget, but over time it hurts less and less and less. Obviously, you're never going to stop hurting from it or holding on to it, but time definitely does help a little bit. Like, things that have happened to me 5 years ago don't really affect me that much anymore. And also time, like, can also mean give yourself time. So if things are overwhelming you, just give yourself some time. So there's this thing that my mom always tells me is just take it one day at a time. So if you're stressing out over things, just take it one day at a time. Do what you need to do that day and don't worry about the next day. And my very last tips are that you should realize that other people can usually relate to what you're going through, and that you honestly aren't alone, because for the longest time when I had depression, I would always think, like, nobody understands what I'm going through. I literally cannot talk to anybody because nobody gets it. But eventually you find out that, like, so many other people feel this way too, and it's hard to, like, think about it, and it's hard to understand that, like, other people get it. And, like, even if it's not the same situation, if you're going through two different things, the way you're feeling about it could be the exact same as someone else's. Now, whoever's watching this, you know that you're not alone, and that I've gone through it too, and I'm using this as a way to let people talk to me. And I may not be the best talker or, like, the best advice giver, but I'm there for you to talk to. And if anybody watching this video needs someone to talk to, feel free to message me or do whatever you need to do. I will leave all my social media links in the description, so you can message me if you need anything. I think that's one thing that I really, really wish I had when I was going through my stuff, and still sometimes today. I wish I had someone I could just talk to, because not a lot of people listened. I really hope that if you're going through stuff, that it gets better for you. That is the end of my video. I hope some of the things I said made sense, and I hope some of the things I said can help you in a way. I think mental health, like, having good mental health and just being mentally healthy is so important, and I don't think people understand that, like, it affects everything we do in every day. Because I hope to have more videos that talk about real life stuff like this. So yeah, I hope you all have a great day. See you guys next time. Bye.